Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for still staying with us here at Dentsu Connect 2022. My name is Aloy. I'm the CEO of media in Dentsu Indonesia. And today I have the honor to share the stage with these three distinguished experts from our industry. Miko, the head of digital marketing in Sampoerna. Arfi, the sales
Hello.
director of IS in Indonesia. And also Prerna Mehrotra, the Dentsu APAC CEO of media. Now, thank you. Okay, now together with Miko, Arfi, and Prerna, we're now going to talk a little bit more about the relevancy. I mean, like the previous session, we've heard about the ever-changing landscape in consumer, and now it's only in order, right, to see how it's going to be relevant and how we're going to act on it. Now, actually, oops. Okay. We are actually, when we're talking about relevancy, it's actually about taking things at the right time, at the right moment, right occasion, and the right consumption time. Now, we had witnessed several forms of transformation from the mass targeting to the tribe targeting. And now we're actually stand on the height of the era where technology has moved beyond its role of just delivering the message or communicating emotion to becoming the key catalyst of bringing such emotion or stories at life. Now, first question to Miko. Miko here, coming from Sampoerna, where actually you guys have, starting in advance before this whole things about relevancy or contextual or being like making it traps and what is a hype. Now, sometimes when we are doing our relevancy planning, we have to touch upon consumers, not as a group, but as an individual. Now with the consumer become wary of the data privacy, how can actually brand nurture the trust? Because now you see that, oh, I have to give the data to somebody that I don't know or some machine that I don't know. How you guys are act on it?
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Alai. First of all, we have to respect our consumers. That's definitely the most important thing. The second one, I think what we need to understand is how we will get the data, because we will have PII-based data and also non-PII-based data, which is probably this is the one that will be challenging regarding the third-party cookieless. And hence we need to increase and scale up our first-party data and enrich with the third-party data. The question is, once we have that data, how we can utilize it. So that's why we need to segment it properly to ensure that we are not only becoming relevant to our consumers, but we can do much better targeting. Now, I still believe that consumers is actually not hate advertising. They just probably hate the way we do advertising to them. So that's why the relevancy becoming more contextual to them is the key.
Now, when you're segmenting even the consumers more, it becomes really small or very niche. And usually, well, the logic is that it will follow with a very different cost structure. That will be a challenge also for the brand, right? And how is it? I mean, like, are you just going to blow up the marketing budget, or is there a way around it?
Well, that's the beauty of today's situations, right? Because the data is pretty much everywhere. And I always discuss with my team that sometimes we are in the situation that blessing and curse. First, you feel blessed that you get all the data. And secondly, you feel cursed if you don't know what to do with that data. So that's why the important thing is how we understand the data, where it coming from, which channel, based on which activity, and segment properly. Why I say it's properly? Because at the end of the day, it has to be actionable. We cannot create hundreds of segments, and at the end of the day, we cannot activate it because we need to be realistic. We cannot talk individual basis, so the segment must be sizable. That's why it is important as well to work with the relevant partners from the publishers, agency, of course, and technology partner to ensure that we get the right data and we can activate it properly. For sure, that will be another technology that will be on board, and hence we need to be smarter enough to ensure that we can still manage our costs in the right way, because typically when you work with more technology, then the first time the cost is increased, but it's fine as long as on the lower funnel that we can get the target, we can achieve our KPI, then based on what we experience, the cost is actually manageable.
But your cost will also be the function of getting the reach also, right? Because it's now cannot be like one for all
No,
kind of thing.
Of course. I don't think that one size fits all strategy will work nowadays.
Okay, but then again, it will also be related to the supply, right? Because now we have to really dissect on from which one I get this to cater this segment, from which one we get to cater this B segment. And do you think like now we have like enough supply to cater to this relevancy or a very contextual campaign?
Yeah, the supply is there. The question is how that supply is actually meet our demand with the new kind of like situations where we need to be much smarter in serving more relevancy to our target audiences. So that's why we always keep exploring, and we do a lot of learning. We do a lot of fail, let's put it that way. But it's okay, because I think I rather pay speeding ticket rather than parking ticket. At least we move somewhere and we understand. And hence, we can understand much better on how we can scale up the relevancy in the right way, which exploring with the key partners from the publishers, technology, etc., is beneficial. So it's actually a group effort. It's not just about from the advertisers alone, because the industry is supposed to go to the same direction, because the problem is actually similar for everyone.
Now, but now you've come from the industry, I would say, that have tried this even before, like I've mentioned earlier. Now, for a lot more of advertiser or categories, being like, we always want to be relevant, but now our being relevant is like on a steroid. There are a lot of science behind the being relevant. Now, what would you suggest for this new starters of the relevancy or being contextual to start? Because they cannot, well, to me, they cannot just go and then dissect the audience and then do this first party and then second party, because I don't think this is only about digital, but it's across medium. And
I don't think it's not only about my category, quote unquote, is the restricted. Sure. I think it's everyone, because the principle is similar. It started to understand your brand. Then you need to understand your consumers and map out across consumer journey, because by understanding your brand and understanding your consumer across all the consumer journey from not aware until the advocacy, then you know the experience gap. That experience gap will define what is the right omni-channel strategy and what is the right content that we should deliver to them. And hence, there's a more, in my view, critical functions that needs to be embarked by anyone, which is more into the data analytic and also the audience management. Because these two functions will be the one who helping us to build the much better strategy, much better contextual, which will give us the bigger scale and still becoming relevant.
Okay, thank you, Miko. So basically, the key points is this is all about first try and then respect the consumer itself and see. This is actually the basic thing that we need to do as marketer, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the consumer and follow where they go. Okay.
Because by understanding that, you know where to touch them, when to touch them, and what message that you should deliver to them.
Okay, thank you. Now, you've touched upon a little bit about the technology and then the supply, and now I'm going to ask this to the tech platform, Arfi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. A lot of this, the relevancy, and especially on relevancy at scale, it has to do with the whole conversation of the cookies. First, the cookies is about to go, and now it's come back, and then it's about to go, and then basically we have now time also to be prepared. Now, when all of those are happening, when the third-party cookies are deprecated, what role can you do as the technology platform in creating relevancy, and how would like it different from the solutions that we currently have?
Okay, so the role of IS about the third-party cookies here. So I think before I answer that, the first thing is like I want to share on how we use the cookies to power the brand campaign, also performance campaign. And then one of the things is like we using cookies for audience targeting, meaning we collect data from every touch point, from search, from how people see the ads, click, and also consumer behavior browsing. As cookies will give you good indicator on how the past behavior of the user, and then we can do segmentation based on that. But at some point, it will not telling you what's important right now. So let's say, for example, if I know now the petrol is rising, yeah, the rate, yeah, and then I will inspire to buy a new EV car. Yeah, not today, yeah. Hopefully the next few years, but it will be my aspirational. But let's say yesterday I read news from the site about the national team of Indonesia winning from Curacao, and then if let's say for me yesterday morning, what is important for me is like I want to know what's my national team play. And if the ads is about the EV car, it's probably not matched with what my concern at the moment. So in this situation, I think we need to have a context on putting the right ads into the right content. So actually, to answer the question, IS role actually we're helping out advertiser to matching between ads with the right sentiment and emotion. So it's not just context, because the technology can help advertiser to bring the right message through ads into the right sentiment on emotion. For example, let's say if I buy some, sorry, not buy, read some economic news, and the trend is like it will be a globalization next year. So advertisers should have option. Should we block our ads on those content, or we can tweak the messaging? So it's like if next year will be about the trend is about the recession, should we do something to save more this year? So it will be more relevant for finance advertiser not to block but to tweak the messaging. So on top of that also, we can give advertiser and agency the precise control. So it's not just on the technology itself, it's yes or no to block or to allow the ads or targeting, but we can give several options on how we see the ad, we see the content, and then it will be up to the advertiser to choose whether this content is relevant or not with the ads. So something that we can deliver the right emotion context. So that's something that interesting in the upcoming years, yeah, right emotion context.
Okay, thank you, Arfi. So basically, we're circling back to the first, you know your consumers, then you respect them, and that's how we actually can have the relevancy.
Yeah.
Now, I know like this whole panel here is, we cannot just stand one by one because these three parties are actually very interlinked. Now to Prerna, well, traditionally, we in the agency will be the one that gets like a lot of information from both the tech partners, tech platforms, and also the clients. And you as, not you, we as an agency, sorry, as an agency, we're actually perfectly positioned to have the view on both sides. So what is the role in that context plays in advertising in your view?
So first, I'd like to start by saying thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be a part of the Dentsu Connect event at Indonesia. There were some great shows this morning, so some spectacular speakers as well. So I guess the point of view from my perspective is that contextual is not a new targeting strategy. It was there from the time, I guess, media came into being. As even in the old days of television, we would focus a lot around buying the right time of audiences and the right slot to target mums, which was afternoon. But what I would say is that post GDPR and the upcoming cookie deprecation and the browser war, contextual as a topic is becoming really hot, and it is now back in action as more and more advertisers and brands are looking at driving that across the board. So I guess that's the first. When I look at contextual, I would say it's got three key benefits. The first one is relevancy and recency at scale. That's what it supports, right? Digital has today created a lot of possibilities with the use of technology to engage with consumers better. So as I would say the virtual and the physical world collide, you are able to see ways to target consumers in a very omni-channel approach using contextual. So it's really about being in the moment and being relevant with the communications to be able to target the consumers better. And that can clearly be done at scale today because of the possibilities that exist in the omni-channel approach. So that's the first. The second point is that I would say contextual is privacy friendly. It does not use third-party cookies. It's really just about using the context and where you want to place the ad for you to be able to drive that. And therefore, it is back in the game. And I guess the third one is really around reducing ad fatigue. There was a lot of conversation that happened this morning around ad recognition and the role attention plays. And I believe that if you place the ad in the right context for a consumer, you're not creating an intrusive experience. Rather, you're creating you're enhancing the user experience. And the chances of you driving that engagement is going to be far higher. So I guess in my view, going back to what I heard, even from Mehrotra, it's an exploration approach. So, we as agencies today, it's a great time, firstly, to be in agencies because you can really test and learn constantly. And I guess there is not one single strategy that enables you to drive relevancy at scale. We will use a combination of strategies to be able to reach the target audiences that are required by the brand. And I guess the last piece really from me is I would say that the power of content and creativity are the two things that will drive attentive reach or support us to really drive relevancy in a very scalable manner across our audiences. So I think those are some of the things that we'll have to keep in mind as we manage the money of our clients in a very judicious manner, looking at the situation that, the economic uncertainty that everyone's talking about from a 2023 perspective.
Okay, thank you, Prerna. So, basically, from the three of you, what I'm hearing is that there's no one size fits all nowadays, and on top of that, it's going to be a process. I mean, like maybe it won't stop because now the laboratory is actually the society or the consumers itself. I mean, like we cannot just put a label on them.
And I think, Balai, it will be interesting for next year, since 2024 will be the election So next year will be more and more news content, political content produced, and then
Yeah, sure.
it will be very interesting on how we can still manage the reach and scale while we need to make sure our brand is still safe, right?
Yeah, of course. Do you want to add to that, Bapak Miko?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the less attention from our consumers, the more content is being delivered. And that's why the key is, again, understanding your consumers, learn and test about it, because the dynamic of the consumers, the dynamic of the technology, the dynamic of the landscape itself cannot be just one-time exercise. It has to be ongoing exercise. That's the one that we have to be agile, because I think in digital, you have to be more familiar with dealing with ambiguity.
Yeah.
So be familiar with it, in my view.
Yeah. Thank you, Miko.
Trial and collaborate ya Pak Miko ya.
Yeah, and it actually takes a lot of efforts and a lot of party for this process, right? And then from the three of you also take out like the 4 key things. It's trust basically, the first one, because we're dealing a lot with our consumers and their data. And then the data itself, what we're going to do with it. And because of that, we're going to need the technology, be it the supply or the verifications of it, that actually can also support the credibility that is going to be delivered to our consumers. Now, that's actually for today's session. I hope this is really fruitful for all of us, and to just leave you guys with one note. It's actually what Mikos just said. I love it. Thank you very much. It's a process. It's a lot of exercise with a lot of different variables, and then we will learn. Thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And
Assalamualaikum.
guys.